Good evening. Yay, everyone understands English. We're in Sweden after all, which is easy. Because every time I come to a different country, and this is not my first time in Sweden, thankfully, you always wonder, will people get your accent, your jokes, and every other bits that go with it? So this is reasonable security. How should I put this nicely? This is a talk that came about based on me being asked after every talk I gave, what would you do if you were trying to secure people? And I said, okay, let's write a talk. I'll make it into a nice, handy thing to work with. And so this became reasonable security. It is a number of different things I have done at home, done in my personal life, and done in my professional life to keep myself secure. So my name is Niall. I am the head of cybersecurity at Capgemini in Norway. I run a team of 30 people, and they're all mental. They work on top secret projects, which they can't tell me what they do, which is fantastic when I try to approve their hours, because it just goes bugger off. I am a Microsoft Regional Director, which means I am a person that talks to Microsoft and tells them what they should do, and they kind of listen to me. As an MVP, I'm in DevSec. I tweet a lot. You can get me at my professional email, and my private email is niall@merrigan.no, and I don't put that up so that the optical recollection in YouTube won't get it. The website, etc. So, anyone here at Øredev last year? Excellent. Anyone go home after that and try to hack their cat? Anyone's wife go, or partner go, what are you doing to this said feline? Yep. I also did a talk called Social Engineering last year, which was kind of fun. But one of the things I want to talk about a little bit at the start is, why don't we take security seriously? Welcome to most Scandinavian countries' version of security. Okay? And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, it's the bit here. I showed this to my wife, and she goes, Niall, I'm Norwegian. I went, I know, honey, I know. And she goes, this is not how we think of security. And I went, what do you mean? She goes, well, it would be very obvious. There wouldn't be any lock on the door anyway. I went, oh, right. But why don't we take security seriously? It's hard. Yes, it is. It's hard. We live in a very safe environment. Like, the thing is, we don't take a lot of security seriously is because it is hard to do. The only person I think that takes privacy seriously is this man. Okay? 8 years fighting not to give away his tax returns. If I asked any Norwegian to give me, or any Swedish person to give me personal information, they'd probably do it. This man just clams up. Okay? Now, the thing is that it's just a proof that kind of bad things happen to good people. So every time I put him up, I have to put up something nice afterwards. And this was the cutest little puppy I could find. Now, I honestly think that when we talk about, a lot of the times we talk about security and stuff like that, it's because we don't understand. We think it'll be all right, but I want to point out, hope is not a strategy. Okay? I hope it will be okay. How many of you have got kids? Excellent. How many of you hope that they will be safe and secure in your house if you didn't do anything at all? Oh, there's someone over there. Is your name Darwin? Sorry, that's my form of parenting. No, it'll be fine, honey. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. My kids are mad. I've talked about them a lot in my talks because it makes life a lot easier for me to relate to things. But lately, my son has been trying to give me security advice because he's learned how to use a Chromebook at school. And I have to sit there and happily go, that's amazing. How do you know that? As he starts bringing up Word and he starts showing pieces of things on the internet, not knowing when he's on my home network that he is so walled gardens that he's got 3 sites he can see. And I'll show you how to do that as well in a minute. But one of the things is, when we talk about security, we kind of have to go back to the bit of the basics. And one of the things I kind of tell people of is that security comes from a lot from our experience. Okay? Last year I talked a lot about this. And I kind of found this, and I thought, this is a really good example of what can go wrong if you give a child a samurai sword. What do you think is going to happen? Here he goes. Now, this is, for many of us, we're looking at this and going, well, of course that was going to happen. Okay? But poor little person here didn't know that, swiping a sword right in front of a very fragile pool. But I can guarantee you the next time they take the samurai sword out, he'll be well away from the pool. Okay? Because every time we make a mistake, every time we have a failure, we learn. And this is a fantastic part of how we evolve. And the thing when it comes from, a lot of the times it comes from experience in how we understand to do our security posture. If you've ever been burgled, as in robbed, your house robbed, most people will then have an alarm. So I have a Danish friend, and he was in Barcelona about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, when there was a bomb threat on Las Ramblas. And I said to him, I said, how are you? Are you okay after it? And he goes, you know what? I'm a little bit weird. And I said, why? What happened? He goes, I went down to a local event in Stavanger where we live, and there's this mad kind of playground area, and there was a load of people there. And I got there, and I'm with my 2 kids like this, and I said, yeah, and he goes, I went and looked for an exit. I wanted to know where I could run to. I was afraid. And I said, yeah, that happens. When you have a cataclysmic event, it will usually shape how you proceed and how you perceive what you should do next. So I have screwed up a lot of stuff in my life and how I've done things. So with this, I'm going to show you kind of the things I've done to make myself easier for me to protect myself. There is nothing worse than being a security speaker. Because every time you say you know something about security, people try to prove you wrong. Okay? Can you imagine me going out and say, someone stole my password or managed to hack my account? It's not a good look. So these are things I put in place to make sure. It's my bit of my paranoia. But I want to kind of go back, and we're going to talk a lot about hackers, and we're going to talk about how to get away from them and do stuff. But has anyone ever really met a hacker or ever been hacked? Anyone ever been hacked? Cool, a couple of you. Excellent. Can we talk about it afterwards? I'd love to hear what happened. Most people, when I say hackers, they see this. They see a person. If you type the word hacker image into Google, this is the first image you find. So this is why I put it up here. They think of an anonymous mass, a black hoodie. When I think of hackers, I could be thinking of anything like this. Okay? I'm thinking of more actually the 5-year-old, the little girl. Most likely probably the best hacker there's ever been, or will be, when she grows up. You just don't know. Okay? I'm going to introduce you to one of the best hackers in the world. It's a woman by the name of Paula Janashevitz. She knows more about security testing on the Windows platform than anyone else in the world. She scares the living bejesus out of me. This woman can break into Windows and steal your password in seconds. So if you see her coming, run. Run very fast. But if you see her talks, go see them. They're fantastic. But I just want to break the stigma that all hackers wear black hoodies and are men. This is not the case. If this is your threat model, so starting on it, change it. Anyone can be a hacker. And to be honest, most people, you will not know what gender they are when they're coming to get you and do stuff against you. And the reason they're going to get information about you is they're going to use something like open source intelligence. And this is where social media is fantastic. Open source intelligence is gathering of different bits from different data sources and putting them together to generate a picture of the person you're trying to attack or the type of solution you're trying to attack. So I had a discussion with a lady earlier on, and I said, what happens if you wanted to break into a house? We're talking about burglary. How would you break into a house? All very honest Swedish people here, but anyone kind of scary Danish? Viking. Sorry, I can't hear you, I'm afraid. Smash a window on the backside of the house. The classic crash and grab. Okay? You, sir, are the traditionalist. I like it. Very simple, very effective. Run in, run out, full of glass. Might have to go to see the doctor. I'm a little bit more subtle, me. I don't like people knowing I was there. Now, I would first do observation. I would look at the house. I'd watch who's coming and going. I'd find a time when it was quiet and then go in and try and do something. I'd also look and see if they've got anything around the house that indicates that they might have children. Because people who have kids generally leave a key out for said children. Good. So you can go off and find the key. And very often, we as people put the key in a very obvious spot because we know our kids are crazy, idiot, stupid, won't forget anything. Unlike my children. who lit my son this morning. Said, Magnus, can you go upstairs and put on a jumper? And he goes, yes, I can. And he comes down and goes, Papa, I couldn't find one. Couldn't find one. I said, did you look in your wardrobe? And I went, yes. And I said, if I go upstairs and I find it now, I'm going to be a bit annoyed. And he comes out and he goes, he opens up his wardrobe like this and he goes, there it goes, none. And I went, oh, the wardrobe. All the jumpers. And he goes, oh, there they are. It's like, okay, I love it, but it means it's just an example of where if you do some observation, whatever, you can put things together. Using things like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media, we can generate a really cool picture of what you look like and also get an idea of your interests. If you've watched any kind of things on sentiment analysis on Twitter, you can straight away understand why data mining of these sources gives you a really good picture of the people you're trying to influence. But it also gives you an idea of what we're trying to do, because hackers think in graphs. We bounce around between people. We will think of a way to get at you, but it won't be direct. And you're probably going, I don't think in graphs, Niall. I can't be a hacker. I said, sure you can. Have you ever rang your parents? Now, when you ring Irish people's parents, the first thing they say to you, especially when you ring my mother, she goes, you'll never guess who died. It's an Irish obsession. They won't tell you any good news, they'll just tell you who died. Okay? And I'll say, who? And she goes, John. Okay. Yeah, John, who's married to Mary, who's, best friends with Jacinta, who's, living next door to James. There we go. I know who the person is. I thought in a different graph. It's relationship theory. We think in graphs because the fact is by just doing it allows us to get different viewpoint on you. You find the different relationships, we get to understand you, and we use this information that are from the different data sources around. Okay? And one of the best forms of getting access to people is getting through their password. So, how many of you use the same password for more than one service? Everyone goes like this. Okay, why? Lazy. Well, I love your honesty. Fair play to you. Yeah, a lot of people, because passwords are hard. I can't remember it. Remember when you have to change your password and your fingers know what they're doing, but it's 3 passwords back? And you're like, have you ever done the one where you get a new password, like, shit. You try again, it goes, damn it. And then you have to really kind of go slowly to make sure your fingers are going the right place. Muscle memory is a really dangerous thing. It's how I've been locked out of my account so many times. It's like, your account is now locked. God damn. And I've got to ring IT support. Now, if I make it very simple for you, if you have a single password used on multiple accounts, it's effectively the same as a single lock with multiple keys. And if you lose any one of those keys, someone has access to that lock. Okay? I tried to explain this to my father. My father is a 65-year-old man, and he just said, Niall, he gets this damn computer, it doesn't work. And I said, well, it does, but it might be a problem, a PEBCAC error. And he goes, what? That sounds complicated. What is? Oh, you don't need to know. If you don't know what PEBCAC is, it stands for string problem exists between keyboard and chair. It's also known as a user ID 10T error in old school. But I said to him, I said, what's wrong? He says, I can't remember my password. I said, why don't you write it down? He goes, well, I can't write it down. Where will I remember it? And I says, well, if you write it down, or if you have what is called a password manager, you could do this. And he goes, that sounds complicated. And I tried to show him on my phone, like where I literally smile at my device and it goes, here's your password. And he goes, okay, maybe that's something I could do. But why do I need multiple passwords? And I explained the keys analogy to him. And he goes, oh, that makes sense. I said, imagine having a single key for your car, your house, your boat, your everything else. And he goes, that sounds amazing. And I said, it's not. I said, what? He goes, but it does. It sounds so easy. I said, yes, what happens if you lose it? I won't lose it. And I said, you will, because people lose keys all the time. And he goes, oh, yeah, if I lost the key. I said, so we have to go back and look at some basic security hygiene. And one of the things is, if you've got a single password for multiple accounts, start changing them now. Either if you have a threat model, like my parents, where they literally have a computer on the desk inside in their house in the middle of nowhere, writing it down is okay. If you're not like them and you like to have passwords on your devices, invest in a password manager. I know 2 passwords in my entire life, the one for my password manager and the one for my corp machine. I don't even know the password for my private computer. Every time I set it up, I have to open up LastPass, I have to get this massively complex long password in, type it in once, set up Face ID, and I'm done. I smile at my computer and it works. The problem is my work computer doesn't support Face ID, so I'm grinning at it like an idiot and it doesn't unlock. But the thing is, doing basic security hygiene like this will make it much easier. But the thing is, passwords are complex and hard to remember, so use the tools that are available. There's plenty of them. It is not a Gordian knot. A Gordian knot is a complex problem that can only be solved, that is a knot that's impossible to untangle. The only way you can untangle it is to actually cut it. So by using password managers as an example, it gives you a very easy way and a very clean way and a very simplistic way to manage part of your digital identity in a very effective way. And to prove it, this is my brother. He goes, I would love to borrow your Spotify account. And I said, sure, you can. So I send him the first thing and my second thing. And he goes, what's the first text? I said, the password. And he goes, are you serious? I went, yep. Jesus. I said, it's used only for Spotify. It'll be rotated out on the 7th of August. And he says, has Anonymous tried to hack you? And he says, not yet. And I said, what? And he says, what do I do with this? And I said, type it in very carefully. It was 80 characters long. One cool little side effect. How many of you have got Netflix? Quite a few have Netflix. Or HBO or other types of things like that. Streaming services. How many of you share that with other people? How many wish you didn't have to? Having an extremely complex long password means they can't type it in on a TV. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Netflix allows you to have a 4-character password to type it in on the TV. Because if you try typing in a long, complex, can you imagine doing the last part of that password? They just actually buy the bloody account. So there you wouldn't have to do it. Now, the first part is the password managers. The second part is having multiple digital identities. So how many of you use the same email address for all services? And this one should be everybody. Okay? Most people use the same email address when they sign up for something. Okay? And this means that you can start linking stuff around and putting things together. We talked about OSINT, putting different points. You can go from data breaches, you can start discovering if someone's using a password manager or not. Or worse still, you might find a very old address or an old breach that has the basics of a password that might be actually part of their master password. Having multiple digital identities is not complex. You can use a thing called Blur from Albine, okay? And what this is a plugin into Chrome that basically allows you to inject an email address, which is a string, and at opaque, opayq.com. Opaque is semi-transparent. And what it allows you to do is have multiple different email addresses that route to your personal email addresses, adding an extra layer of deflection. I use this a lot when I have trying to get onto services I know send me spammy email. Okay? I had to log into the Oracle, or was the MySQL workbench to download the tool, and it pops up again when I had to go, but next time it says, you last logged in here 473 days ago. We're like, great, there's the login, done. I don't get any email from that, I don't care for it. I'll sign up for websites and I just go, use a blank email address, off you go. It means if it ever gets compromised, I know which website it's connected to, and I know that password's unique for that website as well, because that's managed by my password manager. So it's all integrated. I just go, save, done. This gives me another level of isolation, especially if I don't want any email address going to a website that could be potentially dodgy or career inflicting. Okay? I work with cybersecurity. If I go to certain hacking websites, they might ask me to sign up. It's much better to have an isolated address rather than my personal address and that coming out that, he's on a hacking website. This is not really a bad thing, but it's more, it allows me also to, for example, have multiple Facebook accounts when I'm doing testing. It's very, very handy. I would recommend you use it if you're that way inclined. Password manager, linked up with multiple accounts. Final bit, two-factor authentication on all accounts that support it. Please do this. Because if we manage to get hold of your password, if it's not complex, and we try and log in, at least it's a second layer of defense. Facebook, Google Mail, Twitter, Dropbox, OneDrive, Facebook, or Microsoft, all these support it. They even sometimes support the authenticator via the phone or via the watch. So it's literally a case of tap and go. Other ones, for example, support SMS. If you're a bit more want to be a bit more do stuff, use UTF and FIDO, which is the YubiKeys. Use those instead as well. These give you better protection of your digital identity, whereas one of the first things we'll do to try and attack you. And it is the most automated process to get people's accounts and do takeovers. Because once we start doing takeovers, we can start doing things like phishing. Now, how many of you saw Stephen's talk on social engineering? Great. This won't be as in-depth as his, but if you haven't seen it and you want a better explanation of some of the social engineering stuff, do have a look at his talk. Phishing for many people is one of those things that we think of just like trawling. Some Nigerian prince is out trying to sell us, he's locked in some place for, $5 billion, and if we send him $50,000, we'll get more money. This has a very low ROI, return on investment. Most of us right now are very well protected against this because we can spot this as bullshit. If you get a scam or an email from a Nigerian prince, you think, seriously, the 1990s called, they want their email back. We use more advanced in the form of spearfishing. Now, this is a really cool thing because we talk about more of the OSINT, and we talk about the fact that if we knew your password, or if we know some information about you and we generate trust, you will believe that we are actually telling you the truth. Telling you something that you believe only someone who knows you knows automatically generates trust. It's a weird thing. So there is a sextortion technique that's out there right now, which is basically sending you a copy of your email, or on your email, it says, we have hacked your webcam, we've put a virus on your machine, we've recorded your webcam while you've been on dodgy adult websites. Okay? And to prove that we are who we say we are, here's your password and here's your phone number. If you don't send us 2 Bitcoins, we will send this to everyone on your contact list. That is an absolutely terrifying thing to get. Because a couple of things happen. One, you notice a password. You go, they must have hacked me. And now, if you've only got one password, as in one single password, and they give you that automatically makes you freak out. This happened to me on a Saturday morning while drinking my coffee. I may have told you this story before, but I was there and I was like, I know this is a scam. My stomach dropped. I got a hot flush because I thought, someone's actually hacked me. And I was, and I went, it was putting me into what we call a hot state. A hot state is where you are forced to make a mistake because your brain is just going, I need to get out, I need to get out, I need to get out. And my brain, in fairness to it, hadn't been drinking the night before. So it was in tip-top shape. And it went, I got this. And it said, old password, good. You can get your phone number for anyone, great. You have a webcam cover on your webcam, it's fine. And I was like, whew. But I knew this, and I was then just saying to my wife, and she goes, and then at that moment, my son's best friend, mom, rang, and she goes, Niall, I've been hacked. I said, what do you mean? I got an email with my password and my phone number, and they say they've been recording me on my webcam. And I said, and I really, really, really wanted to ask her, have you been visiting dodgy websites? I said, no. And I said, relax, it's not a hack. You have just been scammed. And he goes, oh, thank God. And I said, it's fine, it's okay, it's all right. Because we will use the idea that we will create human error. We have human error, we have Dave, everyone has an inner Dave, Dave's an asshole. And we exploit that. Because when we think a little bit more about like phishing, we have websites like this. Which one of these is the real iCloud? Left or right? Who says left? Who says right? One person, literally no, everyone's in the middle, undecided. Okay? The real iCloud is on the left. And this is just an example of where we can fish you to put in this, where we send you a link, for example, and we would say, do something. Because it's very easy to do so. There's been unusual activity, please, you click on your bank, you do something. And I was telling you about two-factor authentication. Do you know how to bypass it? Very simple. You tell them you're going to hack them. And then tell them, well, you're being hacked. Please send back your 6-digit code you're about to receive. And people go, oh, crap, I'm being hacked. Remember that hot state I told you about? We would put you in that and you would say, I'll be hacked. I got a password reset, and I thought it said, your password has been reset for a website. And I said, shit, who the hell managed to do that? So I managed to scramble, and then I reread the thing and I said, your password has attempted to be reset. If you didn't do this, ignore this mail. Never read email at 6:30 in the morning and try and do important stuff. It's a thing for life. Because we can send information by just doing it through something like, for example, atomic SMS. This is trivial. But this is all kind of done over kind of text. Another thing that generates more is, for example, something like voice. How many of you have been rang by Microsoft? Oh, this is fun. I got rang by Microsoft. Frank in Microsoft was very, very positive. Am I talking to Niall? I said, yes, you are. He was great. Niall, this is Frank from Microsoft. And I said, great, Frank, how are you doing? And he goes, great. I said, there's a problem with your computer. I said, Jesus, Frank, is there? And he goes, yes, Niall, there is. And I said, what's wrong with it, Frank? And he goes, well, there's a lot of errors, and I can see a lot of stuff coming from Microsoft and all this. And he continues on his spiel, and he keeps going. And I said, Frank, I'm going to give you an out now. And he goes, what's that? And I says, I want to tell you that I'm a Cybersecurity Director, a Microsoft Regional Director, and MVP for DevSec. Now, I know a lot about this stuff because I do this myself. Frank, do you want to hang up now, or do you want to continue this call? And Frank goes, I think I'll continue it. Brave man, Frank, brave man. So Frank was on the phone with me for another 3 minutes, and then Frank decided to say, Niall, you're an effing something something. And I went, well, Frank, I'm afraid our relationship has soured, and I'll have to let you go. Goodbye. But that generates trust. And the amount of people that get scammed by this is very high because they think they don't know what they're up against. So if someone rings from Microsoft, it's probably not them. Because I want to just move on to like Wi-Fi. Because one of the things I find that people don't secure well is Wi-Fi because we trust it implicitly. I can use a thing called a Wi-Fi pineapple and generate multiple SSIDs that will allow you to connect to me, and I will do stuff. Because do you know who's providing your Wi-Fi right now? It's not me, don't worry. How to get people scared without even doing a demo. The problem with Wi-Fi is that if you don't know who's providing it, they can do anything in between to make it worse for you or make it better. AT&T just got sued for $60 million for throttling unlimited broadband. But like people also inject stuff into Wi-Fi streams and whatever. For example, this is just an example of me doing what is known as a man-in-the-middle attack. And what I'm going to do here, hopefully if it starts in a second. Let's see if my video is working. It should be. I might have programmed it in to be very good. There's my mouse marking. It's just very slow. What I will do here is I will actually intercept the Wi-Fi traffic and then get the password from, for example, Gmail. So what I'm doing here is just showing you doing an ARP-A, which just shows you the local address, which is 130, which is the machine I'm on, and .2 is the access point. Now, the two MAC addresses that you see there are different. When I run a command like this, it'll run a particular thing called the man-in-the-middle framework, and this will allow me to hack. I will basically redirect your Windows box in a second. Okay, you can see here, D2 still, all right? If I run ARP-A again, now your network router and my attack box are the same, which means all your traffic is routed through me. Which means when I go, for example, to something like gmail.com, or when I do it now in a second, so you can tell when this demo was done because it'll show you that Christopher Reeves, Christopher Lee had died. So if I go to google.com, looks fine. It's live traffic. If I zoom in on top, come on out, there you go. www, and it's over HTTP, which means I can intercept the traffic. Okay? So I was doing this on a very large resolution screen, all the way over. Come on now, you can keep going. Mouse, keep going. There you go. I'm going to try and log in here. It's legit, except it's now got accounts, and it's over HTTP as well. Okay, account.google.com. I'm going to log in. I'm just going to put in Niall, and I'm going to put in password 1, 2, 3, or 4, or something like that, which is my legit password. You want to know why passwords are 8 characters? Because the word password is 8 characters. So here, you can see I've just stolen 1.2.3.4 out of someone's Gmail account. And it was none the wiser. It didn't look any different. So when you're on untrusted Wi-Fi, use a VPN. If you want to know which VPN I use Freedom F-Secure. The simple reason it's created by a Finnish company called F-Secure, which is owned by Mikko Hipponen. It's not in the Five Eyes, so it's a little bit easier. If you have Wi-Fi at home, have multiple networks set up, segregated. I have a kids network. I have our IoT device network, which is basically anything that has the word smart in it gets put on that. It has Wi-Fi access or internet access, but nothing else. I have a guest network, and I have our private network. It is very handy to do this and very quick. I can do it with 4 because I've got Unify. And one of the other things I've got inside in our house is a DNS over HTTP, also done with ad blocking. So this is called a Pi hole. This is a Raspberry Pi with a free download. You run it, you set it up as your DNS server, and all of a sudden, all the ads on your inside your network die. This is fantastic. It is extremely easy to set up. And the thing is, I know when I'm not on or when I'm on the VPN because all of a sudden I've got ads again. All of a sudden my websites go, oh look, this is really good if you've got ads on services that, for example, you can't block, like on your TV, this will block them. This is a very handy way also of protecting your privacy of having your DNS queries being going over DNS over HTTPS. If you have an iPhone or if you have an Android, you can also download Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 client, which will allow you to have secure DNS queries so no one can intercept them. When we look at things like malware, malware is really on the rise because of the fact that it is very easy to write, and also the fact is it is very economically viable. The people are going after customers left, right, and center. This is just an example of WannaCry. And what it does here, it was a blend of where we wormed up the Eternal Blue exploit from Shadow Brokers and then made it into a worm. So you can see here it'll start encrypting the device systems here, and then it'll continue on. I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to skip that and I'll show it to you later. But this is just a thing where you make sure you have a good antivirus on your systems. Windows Defender or having something like that is okay, but do make sure you have a decent one and keep it up to date on a regular basis. A lot of the stuff now is backed by AI, so they're not just doing general heuristics, they're actually looking for straight pattern matching. If you're one of these people who's a little bit more concerned about stuff, I actually have multiple VMs for different things I need to do. I have VMs for hacking. I've also got VMs for what I call dodgy email, where I have email addresses and I'm not sure what's going to happen, and people send stuff to it. So if I want to see what the package they're sending me is, I can download it and open it without it ever destroying my home system. This is really handy to have. If I have certain tasks which I want to make sure are highly secure, I would have VMs for this. For example, I have a couple of devices which, if I'm working for clients, etc., and I'm working on their own systems, I keep them on encrypted disks, and I have VMs that are just done. So if anything goes wrong, the disk is destroyed, their data is gone. I never have to worry about it. But this is just an example, and it's probably a little bit extreme for some of you. But it's one of those things is if you have that type of risk profile, where something you want to check it out, have a VM, be aware that some viruses and some malware will detect they're in a VM and won't run. So don't trust this as a single point of failure. If you're really that way inclined, have a separate machine on an isolated network. That's the level of whatever. One of the last things I'm going to talk about now is, for example, app encryption or full disk encryption. How many of you use this on your home machines? Have disk encryption? If you have a Mac box, I think this is out of the box by default, isn't it? I think the Mac has it automatically. If you have Windows, just turn on BitLocker. A lot of home machines which you buy won't have a TPM, so you might have to buy one separately. Or, what I did was I bought a small one, plugged it into my machine, and off it went. And the reason we have this is, for example, doing things like this. This is my demo box. I had BitLocker on it. I just took it off just for this demo. And what I can show you here is where I'm going to log in as a brand new user that I'm going to create by just rebooting it. So here, I'm going to reboot the machine and run a particular piece of software called ConBoot. Dunk. Okay, sorry about the zooming in and out, but it's because you can't redo screen recording over VM. I was trying to do a physical box for this. And what ConBoot does is ConBoot allows you, on Windows 7, it changes so the administrator password, you just press return. On the Mac, you just press return for login as local admin. But on Windows 8 and 10, it creates the sticky keys exploit, which allows me to create a admin command console by just pressing Shift 5 times. So what I'm going to do here is create a new user called demo user with a password, I think 1234 exclamation mark, because it's now super secure. And I'm now going to add this to the local user group of administrators. Okay? This is where I've got physical access to your box. It's a simple USB return, and I'll just go add, done. Nothing more than that. You can see nothing has appeared in the machine yet. And what I'm going to do now is reboot the box. And through the magic of video editing, I'll look like I have a super fast machine. I go back up, and it says demo user there. So I type in, you'll watch I'll type in pass, 1, 2, 3, 4, exclamation mark, enter. And Windows goes, hi. We're so happy you're here. You've broken me. I could have prevented this by having a local file encryption, because the fact is, what this does is it modifies the in-process memory as you're booting, and the TPM would pick up this modification and would just say, BitLocker now needs to be run, or have to put in your password for BitLocker. If you had bias encryption, etc., it works the exact same way. If you're wondering, how much does this extreme tool cost? $24. It is marketed as a password recovery tool. It works for both. Now, I think it's $20 or $25 if you want both the PC and Mac edition. And you literally reboot the machine, you press enter, and you log in as the local user. Any user you want to log in as. You just what it does on the Mac, I think, is at least up onto previous versions. I think it just changed that instead of saying password must equal to password whatever, it just says passwords equal true. Done. Enter. This is a fantastic tool. So if you have Windows 10, use BitLocker on your machines. This happens if your machine is stolen. No one gets your data. So all your privacy and all your other stuff that you're worried about will not be able to be decrypted. The other thing as well is that if you are kind of like me and you do destroy machines, or you get given machines when you're done, one of the things I actually end up doing is I have a lot of fun. This is where my son really enjoys what I do. He goes, Dad, my friends want to get rid of their computer. Can you help? I'm like, yes, son, we can. When he gets older, we'll get the shotgun. And he can go target practice, okay? So these are just some little tips, and they're reasonable because the fact is they go from the little bit all the way to the extreme. Now, you can bring them forward in your own thing. You can, like, my greatest success story is my wife when it comes to this. Her first thing was, she goes, you have LastPass? And I said, yes. And he goes, and morbidly she goes, what happens if you die? And I went, I don't know where this is going, but can you put down the pillow? She goes, okay. She goes, what happens if you die? What happens if all this goes? Where am I left with? And I said, you'll be financially taken care of. It'll be fine. We have insurance. She goes, no. How do I get access to all the pictures, the baby pictures, our wedding, or everything? I was like, oh. Now, LastPass is a really cool feature. It has a digital will. So basically, my wife can email my LastPass account. If I don't answer within 7 days, it opens for her. And she gets access to all my account details, all the passwords she ever needs. I can also share all passwords with her, which is really handy. And I went, this is what we should be doing. It's, it's very handy. And she goes, great, let's do that. So now she has complex passwords over everything. It's fantastic. And the kind of final bit was like she had friends over for a meeting. And she just comes in, she goes, Niall, do we have a guest network? And I spin round and I go, I love it when you talk nerdy to me. And yes, we do. And I'm so proud of you for asking. And she goes, do I have to give them the password? And I went, yes. She goes, well, make sure you change it after when we're done. And I was like, woman, you're amazing. She goes, of course I am. And off she struts, and I'm like, okay, I have done something right here. Now I can't wait to see how my kids react to when they discover they can't do squat on our network, and I'm going to breed a new set of hackers, or they discover VPNs. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been Reasonable Security. This is my contact details if you want to take a photo of it, or if you want to contact anything else. I will leave the last 37 seconds open for questions, or if you want, you can catch me afterwards. Thank you so much.